You ever get that feeling? That kind of nervous energy when you realize you're going to have to speak English?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like it could be something major, like giving a presentation at work.
Right.
Or even something small, like just asking for directions when you're traveling. Well, if that sounds familiar, if you've ever felt that little hesitation, this deep dive is for you.
We're going to tackle this head on today.
Yeah. We're diving into 11 techniques.
Practical, actionable techniques that can really help you move past that fear and speak English with confidence.
That's the goal, right? To give everyone listening some really solid tools.
Tools they can use right away.
Yeah, and actually feel a difference in how they approach speaking English.
So no more shying away from conversations or feeling intimidated.
Exactly.
We're all about empowering you to speak up and express yourself.
Love it. Okay, so technique number 1, and this is a biggie, is focusing on communication over perfection.
This is where it all starts?
Yeah, it's foundational, right?
The main thing, the absolute priority, is to make sure your message gets across.
Right, like that the other person actually understands what you're trying to say.
Forget about trying to sound like a textbook or having this flawless accent, at least in the beginning.
It's about connecting and being understood.
Absolutely. And, this ties back to something we've talked about before, that mistakes are part of learning.
Not something to be afraid of.
Exactly. That anxiety a lot of us feel comes from this intense need to avoid making errors.
But when you deliberately shift your focus to just communicating your message, you start to break down that fear.
And what's interesting is that this shift actually helps your progress in 3 big ways.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, it just straight up reduces anxiety.
Makes sense. Less pressure, right?
You're not so worried about analyzing every word you say.
So you can actually relax and let your thoughts flow.
Exactly. And second, this approach makes you learn faster.
Oh, interesting. How so?
By actually using the language, even if you make mistakes, you're actively engaging with it.
So it's like more of a dynamic process.
You get real-time feedback, even if it's just someone understanding your general meaning.
So embracing the messiness of it all.
Exactly. And the third big one, it builds confidence.
I could see that. Every time you successfully get your point across, it's a win.
Right. Even if there were a few little errors, it's positive reinforcement. You think, okay, I did it. They understood me.
And those small wins build up.
They really do. So it becomes a cycle. Focus on communication, achieve it, and get more confident.
I love that. Okay, technique number 2 is practicing positive self-talk and affirmations. This is all about what's happening in your head, right?
That inner voice we all have.
Yeah.
It's about consciously using encouraging words and phrases to counteract all that negativity and self-doubt that can be so strong when learning a new language.
Almost like being your own cheerleader.
Yeah. Be your own best friend. And those affirmations help to release fear in a few key ways.
This is a big one for me. I'm all ears.
First, it helps to actively fight those negative thoughts that can totally sabotage your progress. That voice that says, "You're not good enough," or "You'll never get this."
Oh, I know that voice all too well.
It's like a little gremlin sitting on your shoulder.
So how do we quiet that gremlin down?
You got to consciously replace those negative thoughts with positive ones. Remind yourself of what you've already achieved, how far you've come.
Acknowledge your strengths.
Absolutely. And second, positive self-talk really changes your overall attitude towards learning.
Instead of feeling defeated by new stuff, you feel more capable.
Like, okay, this might be tough, but I can handle it.
So turning that feeling of I can't into I can.
Exactly. And finally, those positive affirmations help you really believe in yourself.
Like I can actually master this language.
Right. It's about nurturing a positive inner dialogue.
A supportive inner voice to help you through those tough moments.
That's the idea.
I love that.
Yes.
Okay, technique number 3 is starting with small, achievable speaking goals. I feel like this is super practical, right?
So important. The idea here is to give yourself manageable objectives for your English speaking practice.
Baby steps.
You got it. And then as you make progress, you gradually increase the difficulty.
Instead of trying to climb Mount Everest in one go.
Exactly. Break it down into smaller, less scary climbs.
Right. So instead of saying, I want to be fluent in a year, it's more like, I want to have a 5-minute conversation with a language partner this week.
Perfect example, because the problem with those huge, ambitious goals is that they can backfire.
Especially when you don't meet them right away.
It can be really discouraging.
Yeah.
And then you start associating speaking English with failure.
Yeah, like setting yourself up for disappointment.
So smaller goals, more manageable wins.
Okay, so what are the benefits of taking those baby steps?
First, it prevents overwhelm and keeps you motivated. When you're not facing this gigantic, impossible-seeming task, you're more likely to stick with it.
It makes the journey feel less daunting.
Second, those small wins build confidence. Every time you hit a target, it reinforces your ability and makes you feel more sure of yourself.
Like, hey, I did that. I'm capable.
Exactly. And third, it helps you track your progress. When you have these smaller, specific goals, you can actually check them off your list.
So you can actually see how far you've come.
And that visual reminder can be super motivating.
Okay, on to technique number 4. Record yourself speaking and listen back. This can feel a bit vulnerable for some people, right?
Oh, I know. I used to hate hearing my own voice recorded.
I know, right? It can feel weird at first.
Why is it so helpful?
It's a fantastic way to really assess your speaking skills and pinpoint areas for improvement. It helps you become aware of those little moments where you hesitate or stumble or feel unsure.
It's like getting a more objective perspective on yourself.
It is, and there are 3 main reasons why this can be so powerful.
All right, let's dive into those reasons.
First, it helps you become much more aware of your pronunciation and how your voice goes up and down when you speak.
Intonation, right? Yeah. A lot of times, the fear of not being understood comes from worries about pronunciation and accent. By listening back to recordings, you can pinpoint those areas where things aren't clear or sound unnatural.
So it's a reality check on how you actually sound.
It is. Second, it helps you track your progress. You can keep recordings from different points in your learning journey and actually hear how much you've improved.
Concrete evidence. It's like seeing those before and after photos.
Exactly, and that can be super motivating.
And the third reason.
It helps you self-correct and develop a sharper ear for the language.
So you can catch your own mistakes before someone else does.
Exactly. It's like having your own private rehearsal.
Technique number 5. Now, this one's a little different. Practice speaking in front of a mirror. I'll admit, it sounds a bit strange.
It might feel a bit silly at first.
Yeah, talking to your reflection.
But it's a surprisingly effective way to boost your confidence and improve your speaking presence.
Okay, I'm game. So why is talking to the mirror helpful?
It lets you actually observe your facial expressions and body language as you speak.
So you get visual feedback.
Exactly, and that can help you make adjustments and get more comfortable with how you look when you're speaking English.
It's like watching yourself on video, but in real time.
Exactly. And there are 3 big benefits to this. First, it helps you get more comfortable with how you look. You might notice nervous habits or distracting movements that you can then work on minimizing.
Interesting. So it's about becoming more aware of your physical presentation.
Second, it's great practice for maintaining eye contact and having a confident posture.
Ah, that makes sense. Eye contact can be so important for effective communication.
Right, and practicing in the mirror can make it feel less intimidating when you're talking to someone else.
So it's like a safe space to work on those nonverbal cues.
Exactly. And the third benefit is that it helps you focus on how your mouth moves.
So like watching how you form different sounds.
You can identify areas where you might need to adjust your pronunciation to sound clearer.
Wow, that's cool. So using visual cues to improve the actual mechanics of speaking. I like it.
Okay, technique number 6. View errors as a natural part of learning.
This really reinforces that first point about communication, doesn't it?
Totally. It's about completely changing how you see making mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures or something to be embarrassed about, you learn to see them as valuable opportunities for growth.
It's like turning those oops moments into aha moments.
Exactly. And there are 3 main benefits to this mindset shift.
I'm all about turning negatives into positives, so tell me more about those benefits.
First, it helps you feel less anxious about speaking. When you're not terrified of saying the wrong thing, you naturally feel more relaxed and you're much more willing to actually open your mouth and speak.
Because that fear of messing up can be paralyzing.
Absolutely. And the second benefit is that you learn more effectively by analyzing and correcting your errors.
So mistakes become learning experiences.
Precisely. When you understand why you made a mistake and how to fix it, that leads to a deeper, more lasting understanding of the language.
So instead of just trying to avoid mistakes, we should embrace them.
Exactly. And the third benefit is that it fosters a growth mindset.
Which is?
It means believing that you can always learn and improve, even if it takes time and effort.
So seeing those mistakes as stepping stones, not roadblocks.
Exactly. And that mindset is essential for long-term language learning success. All right, moving on to technique number 7. Prepare and practice common phrases.
Oh, this is so practical. Like having a toolbox of go-to phrases for different situations.
That's the idea. Think about things like greetings, introductions, asking for information, the kind of phrases you use all the time.
The building blocks of conversation.
Exactly. By practicing these beforehand, you're basically preparing your brain so those phrases come to mind more quickly and easily when you're in a real conversation.
So it's like having those responses ready to go.
It is. And this has 3 major advantages.
Okay, tell me how this can help me feel more confident.
First, it builds your confidence for everyday interactions. Knowing you have those go-to phrases makes you feel much more prepared.
It's like having a safety net.
I like that analogy. Second, it helps you respond more quickly and naturally. When you've practiced those phrases, your answers will feel less forced and more automatic.
So it's about fluency and ease.
Exactly. And third, it helps you expand your vocabulary and improve your overall fluency. As you learn these phrases, you'll naturally encounter new words and get more comfortable with sentence structure.
So it's like a multifaceted approach.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to technique number 8. Gradually expose yourself to more challenging speaking scenarios.
Oh, this sounds like stepping outside your comfort zone, but in a manageable way.
You got it. If you want to truly overcome your fear of speaking English, you got to progressively challenge yourself.
So instead of avoiding those situations that make you nervous, you actually seek them out.
In a controlled way, of course, but yes, that's the idea. And there are 3 big reasons why this works.
I'm ready to hear why facing those fears can be so beneficial.
First, it builds resilience.
Resilience meaning?
It means being able to bounce back from setbacks and adapt to unexpected situations.
So being able to roll with the punches in a conversation.
Exactly. The more you expose yourself to different speaking situations, the better you get at handling those curveballs.
It's like building your English speaking muscles.
I love that. Second, it expands your comfort zone. Each time you successfully navigate a challenging situation, your confidence grows.
So you're constantly pushing your boundaries.
In a good way. And third, it prepares you for real-life situations.
So you're not caught off guard when you need to use English in the real world.
Right. By practicing in those lower-stakes environments, you'll be much more ready for anything.
Makes sense. Okay, technique number 9 is setting realistic expectations. This reminds me of what we talked about with setting achievable goals.
It's very related. It's about having a clear understanding of the language learning process and not setting the bar impossibly high.
Like accepting that it takes time and effort.
Exactly. And it's about setting goals that fit into your real life. Trying to cram in too much learning too quickly can lead to burnout.
It's like a recipe for disaster.
So, what are the benefits of having those realistic expectations?
I'm all for a more balanced approach.
First, it prevents frustration and helps you stay motivated.
Because you're not constantly feeling like you're not doing enough.
Right. When your expectations are realistic, you're less likely to get discouraged and give up. Second, you can actually appreciate your progress more. When you have those realistic benchmarks, you're able to recognize and celebrate those smaller wins.
It's about focusing on the positive, on what you've achieved.
Exactly. And third, it lets you actually enjoy the learning process more.
Taking the pressure off, right?
When you're not constantly stressed about achieving some unrealistic level of perfection, you can relax and have fun with it.
I like the sound of that. Okay, technique number 10 is celebrating small victories and progress.
This is so important. It's about recognizing and rewarding yourself for any progress you make, no matter how small.
So acknowledging those wins, big or small.
And there are 3 key reasons why this is crucial.
I'm always up for a celebration. Tell me more about those reasons.
First, it boosts your motivation and encourages you to keep going. When you recognize those wins, it reinforces the idea that you're moving forward, which makes you want to keep practicing.
So it's all about positive reinforcement.
Second, it creates a more positive association with learning and using English.
Instead of being a chore, it becomes something you actually look forward to.
Exactly. And third, it helps you build resilience.
Meaning, being able to bounce back from those inevitable setbacks.
When you have a habit of celebrating those wins, you're better equipped to handle the tough moments without getting too discouraged.
All right, we've reached our final technique. Number 11 is engaging in regular self-reflection.
This is about taking a step back and really assessing your language learning journey.
So looking at what's worked, what hasn't, and what needs adjusting.
It's about being mindful and intentional about how you're learning. And it's a good reminder that everyone learns differently.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And there are 3 main reasons why this self-reflection is so important.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear why taking that time to reflect is so valuable.
First, it helps you figure out where you need to focus more attention or where different learning strategies might be more effective,
It's like taking stock of your strengths and weaknesses.
and tailoring your approach to your own individual learning style.
So, personalized learning.
Exactly. The second benefit is that you develop a better understanding of how you learn best. This self-awareness makes the whole process more efficient and enjoyable.
It's like figuring out your own personal learning roadmap.
I like that. And third, it helps you set more targeted and effective goals.
So using those insights to guide your future progress.
Exactly. When you understand what's worked for you in the past, you can set more realistic and achievable goals for the future. So it's about using those reflections to continually improve your approach.
Well, I'd say that was a pretty comprehensive look at 11 really practical techniques for anyone who feels that fear of speaking English. From focusing on communication and embracing mistakes, to celebrating those little wins and taking time to reflect. It's a great toolkit for building confidence.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how many of these techniques are actually applicable beyond just language learning. They're about mindset, self-compassion, and strategic planning, all these psychological elements that play a huge role in how we approach learning and overcoming those fears.
So for all of you listening, what does this all mean? It means that confidence in speaking English isn't just about cramming vocabulary words and grammar rules. It's about actively adopting practices that nurture your confidence, manage your anxiety, and keep you motivated and engaged in your learning journey.
And this brings up a really important question for you to ponder. Out of all these techniques we've talked about, which one or two really resonate with you right now? Which ones feel like they could make the biggest difference in your approach to learning and speaking English? Maybe it's as simple as making a conscious choice to focus on getting your message across, even if it's not perfectly grammatically correct.
Or maybe it's committing to incorporating positive self-talk into your daily routine, reminding yourself of your strengths and potential. Or perhaps it's choosing one small, achievable speaking goal you can focus on this week. Whatever it is, we encourage you to pick at least one technique and just try it out, see what happens.
And as you continue on your language learning journey, don't forget to reflect. Take some time every now and then to think about what's working well for you, what challenges you're facing, and how you can adjust your approach. Learning a language is a journey, and these techniques are tools to help you navigate it with more ease and confidence.
So, as you go about your day, we want you to think about your relationship with speaking English. What are those things that make you feel afraid or hesitant? And which of these techniques could be that first step towards overcoming those fears? Choose one, experiment with it, and see what happens. You might be surprised by the positive changes you start to experience.
You've got this.
That's right. Keep practicing and keep learning.
And remember, mistakes are just stepping stones.
On to fluency and confidence.
Exactly. We'll see you in our next deep dive.
See you then.